Hello and welcome to my jungle, or at least as close to a jungle as I can get in my apartment. And that's because today we're going to be talking about The Jungle Book. This is my Disney Flashback video of The Jungle Book. If you haven't seen my other Disney Flashback videos, I will link my playlist down below. I've done pretty much all of them, starting with Snow White, up to now with The Jungle Book. And The Jungle Book came out in 1967. And before I get into that, speaking of animals, you may hear Duncan meowing as per usual, because even though his dinner is not for an hour and a half, he thinks it's dinner time. Somehow he knows the correct time when it's breakfast and can do that like clockwork, but when it comes to dinner, he gets confused about the time. Or maybe he's just demanding. I don't know. But I gave him some treats, thinking that would tide him over until dinner and that maybe would stop making him meow, but no. He gobbled down the treats and then continued on with the meowing. So you may hear that in the background. I also had a hair appointment today. Got a trim, got some lowlights put in to be more fall and kind of do a warmer blonde with a little bit more depth. So I have good hair for this video, and you know when I have a hair appointment, I like to record a video on that day to have the best hair I can for the video, because that doesn't happen too often. One other thing before I get into the movie is that I kind of changed things up with my settings today. I normally have my camera on autofocus, especially if I'm holding things up to the camera that I want to focus on. But I don't love the way that looks, and a lot of times it will change the coloring and the way the lighting looks. So I've gone for manual today, and I've also tried to play around with my light because, I don't know, when I look in the viewfinder, it looks just gray, and just gray is the best way I could describe it. And I've been trying to make it warmer, but I can't seem to warm it up. So you'll have to let me know if you notice a difference in this video from my other videos. And knowing me, I'll probably try to make it a little bit better in editing if possible, but I may eventually have to go back to putting my ring light on the camera. I've just been using this little stand light because it's the most convenient, whereas the ring light I have to attach to the tripod and then leave it up because it's a pain to take on and off. So it can be a little bit of a pain, but maybe when I get my desk in here and the room is finally complete, then I could just leave the camera up with the light on it, and that would be easier, because right now I'm having to break it down, but we'll see. That's my problem to deal with later. That's not for you to even think about. But I did want to share that this shirt is the closest I have got to a Jungle Book shirt, and I think it's pretty appropriate. My mom got it for me. While it would also, I think, be a good Animal Kingdom shirt, it's fitting for the Jungle Book. So thanks, Mom, because now I have something to wear for this Disney video. Alright, well that was a much longer introduction than I intended on, but I did want to share all of that with you. Now, let's get into the Jungle Book. To be honest, I wasn't thrilled about watching this one because I don't remember loving it as a kid. Like, I don't remember it being one that I watched over and over or being a favorite. And I thought about skipping it. I thought about just going to the next one. But then I said, no, I should give it a chance and maybe it will surprise me. Stay till the end to see if it did and what I thought about it. The movie begins with a book opening that says the title, The Jungle Book. And there is music playing. We move in on an illustration of a village. I also noticed in the credits that it said it was inspired by Rudyard Kipling's Mowgli stories. I'm not familiar with those. And the long credits continued to play with the music, but there was no narration over the credits. And I also noticed that, again, George Bruns did the music, but so did the Sherman Brothers. They did the songs. So I'm assuming that means the lyrics or like the songs that weren't just instrumental. I'm not really sure. But the Sherman Brothers are well known if you're a Disney fan. They've done quite a few of the songs for various movies. So there you go. Once the credits end, the narration does begin. We are in the jungle and a baby is crying. Bagheera the panther is the one narrating. He finds the cub, which he refers to Mowgli as, and leaves him with a pack of wolves, of which the mom just had babies. The wolves end up raising him, but Bagheera continues to check on Mowgli over the years. Some years later, all the wolves have a meeting because Shere Khan the tiger has returned to that part of the jungle. They feel he will try to kill Mowgli and go after anyone who tries to protect him. They decide the man cub can no longer stay and he must leave. Mowgli's wolf father tries to argue with them, but then Bagheera jumps in saying he can help by taking him to the man village. He tells him how Shere Khan hates all humans and has vowed to kill him. While Bagheera and Mowgli are trying to sleep, Kaa the snake shows up and hypnotizes Mowgli and tries to kill him. Bagheera tries to reason with him and he himself gets hypnotized. Mowgli is then freed while he's hypnotizing Bagheera and manages to save Bagheera. Kaa's voice sounded very familiar, so I looked it up and my suspicions were correct. It's the same voice actor that did Winnie the Pooh. If you watch The Jungle Book, you'll immediately recognize and hear Winnie the Pooh's voice. A funny little side note, Duncan really enjoyed this one and he couldn't stop watching. He never really pays attention to TV. Usually if I'm watching, he's just sitting there but doesn't pay attention to what's on the TV. But for some reason, animated movies, especially one with animals, catch his attention and he isn't just, he sits there and looks at the screen and watches it for quite some time. It's rather cute. Mowgli comes upon a herd of elephants and makes friends with one. The one in charge figures out he's a man cub and isn't happy. Bagheera assures him he's with him and he's taking him to a man village. And the elephant reminds him that an elephant never forgets. Basically, you better be telling the truth that you're taking him to the man village because an elephant never forgets. But shortly after saying that elephant forgets his son and leaves him behind. It was a bit of a cute comical moment. Bagheera gets annoyed with Mowgli for not listening to him or arguing with him or something of that nature. So he says, "You're on your own." They go their separate ways, and that's when Mowgli meets Baloo the bear. Mowgli tries to fight him, and Baloo says to him, "That's pretty pathetic." Then he teaches him how to fight and growl like a bear. When Bagheera hears Baloo's growl, he rushes back, saying to himself that he shouldn't have left him alone. When he sees it's Baloo, he says, "Oh no, it's that shiftless, stupid jungle bum." Bagheera tells Baloo that Mowgli is going back to the man village, and Baloo says, "The man village? They'll ruin him. They'll make a man out of him." Mowgli says he wants to stay with Baloo, and Bagheera says to Baloo, "How will you keep him safe?" Baloo says, "I'll teach him everything I know." Then he goes on to sing the Bare Necessities, which I think is a good song. Mowgli is following Baloo as he sings, and Bagheera says, "I give up." They are floating downriver, Baloo and Mowgli, when a bunch of monkeys start messing with them. They start taking Mowgli away, so Baloo calls out to Mowgli for help, and that causes Bagheera to come back. As I'm reading this, I'm realizing there's a pattern. Bagheera gets fed up, leaves, but then ultimately comes back when he thinks Mowgli's in danger. Next, we meet King Louie, who I believe is an orangutan. He is singing, "I want to be like you." He wants to learn to be human and hopes Mowgli can teach him. Baloo creates a disguise to blend in with the monkeys and try to save Mowgli, but at the end of the song, his disguise falls off. Then, after some fighting back and forth, King Louie's home comes crumbling down. Baloo then says with a black eye, "Man, that's what I call a swingin' party." Bagheera explains to Baloo about Shere Khan and how the only way to keep Mowgli safe is to take him to the man village. Baloo doesn't want to because he promised the kid he could stay with him in the jungle. Bagheera urges Baloo to think about what is best for Mowgli and will keep him safe. Baloo asks, "Why me?" Bagheera says, "Because he listens to you." Baloo feels bad, especially because Mowgli begins singing Bare Necessities, the reprise, and says to Baloo, "I like being a bear." He asks Baloo where they are going, and Baloo says, "Well, it's sort of new." Then Mowgli responds, "Oh, I don't care, as long as I'm with you." Baloo then tries to tell him the truth, but Mowgli starts chasing a butterfly. Baloo says, "Stop, listen to me. I've been trying all morning to tell you. I've got to take you back to the man village." Mowgli says he's just like Bagheera and runs away from him. Of course, Bagheera came back again and the two split up to go find Mowgli. Next, we finally see Shere Khan. He's hunting a deer. But the elephants march up and scare the deer away before he has a chance to do anything about it. Bagheera finds the elephants and stops them, saying he must find the man cub. He's lost, he's ran away, so he's kind of enlisting their help. But Shere Khan overhears the exchange and delights in the information. The head of the elephants, the colonel, is kind of reluctant about helping because it's Shere Khan and they just have other things they want to do, I guess. Winifred, who I believe is the colonel's wife, points out to him, "What would you do if our baby went missing?" And then the baby elephant says, "The man cub and I were friends. He'll get hurt if you don't help." So the colonel agrees. However, they never really revisit that, so I don't know what happened with that. Shere Khan is still listening and hears the elephant's plan. They think they have the element of surprise, but they do not, and Shere Khan says, "Now for my rendezvous with the little lost man cub." Now we find Mowgli, who runs into Kaa, who tries to hypnotize him once again. He doesn't succeed in that, but tells him, "I can help you so you never have to leave the jungle, but you have to trust me." Mowgli says, "I don't trust anyone anymore." Kaa then says, "I'm not like those fair weather friends." Then Kaa starts to sing a song saying, "Trust in me." It's kind of dragged out like that, but he's saying, "Trust in me." And then he does hypnotize Mowgli, and Mowgli starts to go into a trance and basically does whatever Kaa tells him to do. Kaa is wrapped around Mowgli when Shere Khan tugs at Kaa's tail from the bottom of the tree, kind of almost like he's ringing a doorbell. Shere Khan announces himself and Kaa says, "What a surprise." Shere Khan replies, "I hope I haven't interrupted anything," and Kaa says, "No." Shere Khan says, "I thought I detected someone up there in your coils," while showing Shere Khan his claws. So as he's saying it, he kind of puts out his claws like, "You better not lie to me." Kaa says, "No, I was curling up for my siesta." Shere Khan says, "But you were singing to someone," and as he's saying that, he starts choking Kaa. Kaa says, "No, I was singing to myself. I have a problem with my sinuses." He said it causes him not to eat or sleep, so he sings himself to sleep like self-hypnosis. Then he says, "Let me show you how it works." He tries to hypnotize Shere Khan, but it doesn't work. Shere Khan says, "I can't be bothered with that. I have no time for that sort of nonsense." Don't know how he was immune to the hypnotism when nobody else was, but maybe it's because he's like considered the king of the jungle. I don't know. Shere Khan then tells him, "I'm searching for the man cub, the one who is lost. You wouldn't mind me searching your coils, would you, Kaa?" Kaa agrees, but only shows either end of him, so his head and his tail. And then Mowgli begins to snore, so Kaa tries to play it off like it's him because of his sinuses. But then Shere Khan says, "How about the middle?" Kaa manages to show the middle without showing Mowgli. Shere Khan says, "If you do happen to see the man cub, inform me first." After he leaves, Kaa says, "Who does he think he's fooling?" But then says, "He gives me the shivers." And as he shivers, his tail loosens and Mowgli gets free. Mowgli is able to get away from Kaa and also injures him in the process. Next we see 3 vultures. They see Mowgli and say, "Let's have some fun with him." Mowgli is crying and says, "Go ahead, laugh. See if I care." The vultures say to each other, "He must be down on his luck to be in our neck of the woods." They try to ask him what's wrong and he responds, "Leave me alone." They say, "You look like you haven't got a friend in the world." He says, I haven't. They continue, haven't you got a mother or father? Mowgli says, no, nobody wants me around. They respond, yeah, nobody wants us around either. We may look shabby, but we've got hearts and feelings too. Just to prove it to you, we're going to let you join our group. You'll be an honorary vulture. Mowgli says, no thanks, I'd rather be on my own. They say, come on, everybody's got to have friends. So throughout the course of this movie, Mowgli has been a wolf, a bear, and an honorary vulture, and of course a human. The vultures start to sing to him, and Shere Khan passes by and hears the singing. He joins in, and now knows Mowgli is there. The vultures are scared of him and back away. Shere Khan says to the vultures, thank you for detaining my victim. And one of them responds, don't mention it, Your Highness. So it wasn't clear if they did it intentionally, but I don't think they did. I think it was just coincidence, but because it's Shere Khan, they were just like, yeah, sure, whatever you wish. Then Shere Khan says boo to the vultures, and they run away and say, let's get out of here. They also say to Mowgli, run, friend, run. That's why I don't think they're on Shere Khan's side, so they're trying to tell him, get away while you can. Mowgli says, why should I run? Shere Khan tells Mowgli, everyone must run from Shere Khan. Mowgli replies, you don't scare me. I don't run from anyone. The vultures are off in the distance looking on in awe that he would speak to Shere Khan that way. Shere Khan says, you have spirit. So I'm going to give you a head start. I'll close my eyes and count to 10. It makes the chase more interesting. Mowgli picks up a stick. Shere Khan goes to attack him, but Baloo shows up and grabs Shere Khan's tail and says, run, Mowgli, run. Shere Khan ends up biting Baloo's butt, and Mowgli starts hitting him in the face with the stick and says, take that, you big bully. Shere Khan starts chasing Mowgli, and Baloo keeps trying to hold him back. He's holding him by the tail. Then Baloo says, somebody do something with that kid. So the vultures come by and pick Mowgli up and fly away. The vultures tell Baloo, he's safe now, you can let go of Shere Khan's tail. And he says, are you kidding? There are teeth on the other end. Shere Khan starts attacking Baloo, and then lightning strikes the vulture's tree, setting it on fire. Isn't that lucky? The vultures say, fire, that's pretty much the only thing Old Stripes is afraid of. The vultures charge Shere Khan, then Mowgli ties a burning stick to Shere Khan's tail. Mowgli goes to check on Baloo, who's on the ground, when Bagheera shows up and says to Mowgli, you've got to be brave like Baloo was. They're thinking that he's dead at this point. Bagheera goes on about Baloo's memory and sacrifice of bravery. When Baloo wakes up and hears this, and the other two don't realize he's woken up, and he says to himself, he's cracking me up. Once Bagheera finishes his speech about Baloo, he says, it's best we leave now, man cub. Then Baloo says, don't stop now, Baggy. There's more. There's lots more. Bagheera is annoyed when he sees that Baloo is fine after he just said all that stuff about him. Mowgli says to Baloo, you sure had us worried. And Baloo says, I was just taking 5, playing it cool. Baloo then says to Mowgli, nothing and nobody is ever going to come between us again. Well, Baloo shouldn't have said that, because next thing you know, Mowgli hears a girl singing. He sees her and says, what's that? Bagheera says, that's the man village, and Mowgli says, no, that, kind of referring to the girl. Baloo says, don't worry about those, they ain't nothing but trouble. Mowgli starts to follow the girl into the village, and Baloo says, Mowgli, come back, while Bagheera says, go on, go on. He tells Baloo, it was bound to happen. He's where he belongs now. Baloo says, you're right, but I still say he would have made a great bear. Then Baloo and Bagheera walk off singing the bare necessities. It wasn't as bad as I initially thought. I really thought it was going to be a tough one for me to get through, but I honestly think the Sword in the Stone was maybe a little bit harder than this one, because I was able to watch this all in one sitting. It kept my interest enough that I wasn't drifting off or anything. So I am glad that I watched it and didn't skip it, especially where I hadn't seen it in so long, but it's not a favorite, and probably not one that I would watch often. But to me, the main conflicts of the movie were a bit vague or simple. The entire movie, they are trying to keep Mowgli safe from Shere Khan and give him back to the man village or human world. I suppose he learns things from the other animals in a way, but I guess it could also be considered a story about friendship, even though he leaves his friends at the end. But you could also look at it as he ended up where he was meant to be all along, with his own kind or his own people. So that is my Disney flashback for The Jungle Book. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Are you a fan of this movie? I always enjoy hearing what other people think, if it's a favorite of theirs, or if you've kind of felt the same way as I did about it, because that's the great thing, is that I'm sure the princess ones I love might not be other people's favorites, and vice versa. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I will be back at some point with another Disney flashback. These may get a little bit more spaced out now that we're heading into holidays, because I'll be doing more holiday themed videos, plus there's just a lot of other videos on my list that I want to get through. But I hope that you are doing well. I will see you soon in another video. I hope you have a magical day. Bye!